Okay, well, I'm going to just go ahead and get started. How's that? Seems like we've got a good number of people already with us. I'll open us up in prayer and we'll kind of just launch in. Yeah, Lord, we just want to say thank you. Thank you for this time. Thank you for this space to be together. Lord, we do just thank you for the technology, God, that you can even make this happen. And God, I just want to pray specifically that the name of Jesus would be exalted among the Japanese people. And I just want to say thank you that it is going to happen someday. Lord, this nation will hear the gospel. I just pray that you'd use this breakout session to advance this purpose in whatever way you like, and to do things that we are not even expecting you to do. And just even speak to us in unique ways. And we just commit this time to you in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, so I'm going to just real quickly kind of lay a foundation of vision. Probably everyone, if you're here at the NPL Summit, you probably understand these principles, but I just wanted to lay them out just to say this is why we do what we do. And just mainly want to say our desire for NPL Global, really, and especially our team in Japan here, just to build any foundation on Christ, on Him only, on His word, His power, His story, His strategy. And so one key place, super familiar to us, I'm sure, where we can see kind of all the components of this strategy couched with some content directly from and about our Lord, is the Great Commission, as seen in Matthew 28. So I'm going to just read that. And yeah, it says, "And Jesus came and said to them, 'All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I've commanded you. And behold, I'm with you always to the very end of the age.'" And so I want to actually unpack that just a little bit, again, just as a foundation before we get into the content. And I'm just going to, one of the best ways that I've seen to kind of unpack the content in this verse is I'm just going to steal it from Mike Shipman's 1, 2, 3, Obey the Great Commission. One bonus of attending this breakout is you get a super simple, powerful vision casting tool. So when you read this passage in the Greek, there's actually only one commandment. So, you know, when you read it in the English, there's 4 imperatives. You know, go, make disciples, baptize, and teach. But when in the Greek, there's only one core commandment. And in English, it's written, make disciples of all nations. But actually in the Greek, it's more simple. And it's disciple all nations. What's cool is a lot of Japanese translations actually keep that. But so it's a little bit different, a subtle yet powerful difference. Make disciples of all nations versus just disciple all nations. So, you know, I think in my mind, when I heard the Great Commission, make disciples of all nations, I always just grew up thinking, you know, if I make a few disciples and I disciple them well, then the job is done. But in that command, the command is to disciple the whole nation, and not just one nation, but all the nations. So that's a much bigger task. And as we see it kind of played out in the book of Acts, we see basically one way of defining that is that everyone hears, and those who believe are discipled in healthy churches. But just for now, I'm just going to give you a short, simple kind of explanation. But the one is one core commandment, and it's disciple all nations. So I was going to ask for question and response. I don't know if this is possible. Is that what's the one core commandment? Somebody pop in and say it again.
Disciple all nations.
Hey, thank you. Okay, great. So I don't know how you feel when you hear that. I feel a mixture of excitement, but maybe also some nervousness as well. And what's great is that leads us to the two assurances. So again, we have one core commandment, disciple all nations. And then we have 2 assurances, and they're the bookends of the Great Commission. What's the very first thing that Jesus says in that passage? Anybody can pop in and chime in.
I'm going to go put it in that corner of the book.
All authority.
All authority, yes. He has all. Thank you. Yeah, he has all authority in heaven and on earth. So that kind of answers the question of our qualifications. So if he has all authority in heaven and on earth and he tells us to do something, that means we're qualified to do it. So each of us here, and especially collectively, we have the qualification and the authority from Jesus to disciple whole nations, not just a few. So the two assurances, one is his authority, and the second is the last thing he said, his presence. So the two assurances are his authority and his presence. And his presence with us tells us that we have everything that it takes to do the task because he's with us. So this isn't dependent on our ability, our strength, but it's dependent on him and his presence. So again, there's one core commandment. What was it again?
Disciple all nations.
All nations.
Yes, great. And there's two assurances. Would somebody tell me the two assurances?
All authority and God's Jesus' presence.
Yes, great. His authority and his presence. Okay, and that leads us to the three activities. So, as I mentioned earlier in the English, there's 4 imperatives: go, make, baptize, teach. We already talked about the make disciples. So that leaves 3 activities. It's go is the first. And the only phrase I want to add that's not seen in the text is proclaim the gospel, because every instance when we see this lived out, there's a verbal, except for 1 or 2 key exceptions, is there's a verbal telling of the gospel. So the first activity is go and proclaim the gospel. And the second thing that we see is baptize. And again, there's a lot more detail we could go into each of these. I'm just kind of doing a short version, but baptizing quickly, baptizing close to profession, that kind of thing. But we go and proclaim, number 1, 2, baptize them. And 3 is we teach them to obey specifically everything that the Lord commanded us to do. And that's the one that takes the blood, sweat, and tears and time and love. And we're looking for, those people to disciple, to walk with. But also that includes teaching the go and the baptize. It includes everything in the commands. And I just wanted to set that aside. So again, the 3 activities are go, proclaim the gospel, 2 is baptize, and 3 is teach to obey. And actually, let's review the whole thing real quick, and then I'll tell you why it's important. What's the one core commandment again?
Disciple the nations.
Nations.
Yep. Disciple all nations. And the 2 assurances?
His authority and his presence.
Amen. And 3, what are the 3 activities?
Go proclaim, baptize, and teach obedience.
Okay, praise God. Thank you. So if you are operating with the authority of and in the presence of Jesus, and you just do these 3 activities over and over and over again and teach others to do the same, you can disciple the nations as you're working with Jesus, aiming for his goal. And he's qualified you, he goes with you, you have everything that it takes. So I just wanted to put that ahead at the very front, because that's what keeps us going. The words of Jesus, they help us stay focused on what is the task. The task is to disciple the Japanese people as a whole. They keep us encouraged in our calling. We believe he's called us to do that. Any Japanese person, no matter how old in the Lord or how old, period, we know they're qualified to be a part of this, and they have everything it takes. And just helps us stay on target with those activities, doing those activities over and over again. That's what produces churches, multiplies churches, and can get the task finished. So hopefully everything from this point forward, we're going to kind of dive in a little bit more on the actual work. And then hopefully it's just a story of us living this out. So, and actually, Chuck, if you don't mind, would you cut and paste just the content of what I shared, just the outline? Chuck's going to put that in the chat for you to see.
Yeah, it's in the chat for everyone.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So I'm just going to give you a short kind of I'm going to try to do this in 5 minutes, give you like a 10,000-foot view of the rough timeline of what's happened to get to where we are in NPL Japan. And then we're going to zero in and highlight on a couple of stories. I've got some of my just awesome partners here to help me with this. And then we're going to try to finish in about 50 minutes from now. And then we'll have time, about 30 minutes, hopefully 30 minutes for question and answer, if you have any. Two things I want to put right up front. One is that we have not seen a movement yet. So we're not speaking as like, hey, look at us, we've started CPMs in Japan. We're not there yet. I'm not aware of any happening right now. There have been some really encouraging, I know of at least one the emerging disciple make movement. It kind of petered off, but it was a beautiful thing when it started. Just obviously historically, there's been some really good highlights in Japan, but right now I'm not aware of any movements happening. We just want to pass on our story of what we know up to this point. Last I checked on the CPM scale, we're right about 1.5 on a scale of 1 to 5. We're consistently seeing first-generation believers, a few emerging second-generation churches. But I just want to put that out there is that we're just going to tell our story. Hopefully you can learn something from it. Again, feel free to ask questions. But I just want to say we're not speaking as experts on how to do movements in Japan. And there's also no way I could mention all who God has been using in this journey or all that's happened. Again, feel free to go deeper. And anyone who presents here, you're welcome to contact them directly and pick their brains. There's a lot of collective wisdom in this Zoom room. So just a little bit of background. I personally landed in Japan in 2012 for the first time, like boots on the ground. There are groups of people, beginning as early as the early 2000s, that there was IMB sent some strategy coordinators into Japan. They have a story to tell. There's the Antioch Church sent some really key people that have actually partnered with us and become really good friends of ours beginning in 2008. I'm just going to tell this kind of from my angle here. But I was trained in Wheaton in 2011. Made some really key connections there. I may refer to again, but there's just a strong sense in which God was saying, this is what I'm calling you to. I'm calling you to be involved in discipling this nation. After I got trained, I came to Japan in Eastern Tokyo with a 1-year internship. So I had 1 year to try to do something of value and to kind of prove to our local church that we could survive in Japan and get some stuff going. What was cool is I met Troy Cooper just a couple of months before, and he was doing the exact same thing. He landed 2 months prior to me, and he landed in Hokkaido, and he was also implementing T4T. He had some experience. I had 0 experience when I landed, but I was just enough behind him that I could kind of follow what he's doing and walk in his tracks. The bottom line of that year, Troy and their work up in Hokkaido, they saw at least 1, maybe 2 second-generation believers in that time. Our team, just my family and one of our friends, Rebecca Evans, we saw a really good number of salvations, baptisms. We saw new believers starting to own the task. Bottom line, it was the most fruitful year of my life, just using these principles, and again, in very historically difficult soil. After that time, I went back to the States. We were just supposed to raise support and come back, but I ended up getting grounded for a lot longer, about 2 years. And during that time, I met I made a lot of important connections. I met Ying Kai during that time, who had a heart for Japan, and he wanted to come to Japan and train, and I was his only connection. So I had the honor of just coming with him to Japan. Someone told me, just sit on your hands and watch him train. And then he let me do all the follow-up. So I had a little clipboard and I just passed it around and said, if anybody wants, more coaching or wants to talk about stuff in Japan, we saw a little bit of fruit. We'd love to talk to you. And from that, passing that clipboard and doing that training, I made some really cool connections. 2 of the guys here, Knut Toplan and Caleb Evie, I met through that, and we started working together. So then when I came back in 2015, we kind of already had a core, maybe 5 or 6 people. some of whom were bilingual, most of which were outside of Tokyo, but kind of had a little team going. And my family and Rebecca, we came back. We came to West Tokyo in 2015. And I just started training anybody that moved. I would just go and sit in churches and try to meet the pastor and invite them for coffee and cast vision. And what's crazy is the first 5 of 5 pastors that I asked said yes to training. And but no one said yes in an ongoing, like, our church is going to fully adopt this completely. I had little slices of training, but that's how I met Tetsuo Watanabe. He's going to share in just a minute. And, you know, God blessed it. We saw some cool things happen. We were seeing people come to faith pretty easy, having trouble getting to generations. But overall, I just had this sense of this is working, you know, mobilizing laborers, sharing the gospel. These principles, they work in Japan. About that time, Chuck and Deb Wood came over and really kind of gave me another just set of eyes to see the work through. They introduced swarm training to us, some important tools. And, you know, they've been mentoring us really closely ever since. But from there, we just exploded in terms of numbers of trainers. We started, because of the swarm training and the 3-touch training cycle, can explain that later if you're not familiar with those terms. We started gathering larger amounts of trainers. Last I counted, we had 60 trainers in different parts of Japan ready to go and scattered in different areas. But we're still, mostly foreigners were involved with that. And actually still, it's probably 60-70% still foreigners that are actually doing the majority of the training. From there, some NPL Asia guys have come along and helped us, and just, you know, we've had a lot of input, helped us focus more towards Japanese. Around that time, Tex and I had started working together. He lost his job, and that was one of the best things that happened to us. Sorry, Tex. But he was a lot more available to kind of fly with us and interpret. And you know, and personally, have been limited in my personal outreach because of lack of language. Again, you can ask us more about that later. I've mainly been working vicariously through other people. At this point, we kind of had a long, wide gin map. We could go and train and start groups and see people come to faith pretty fast, having trouble with generational growth. That's when Chuck and others really helped us hone in on 139 and the idea of going deep with a few. And just in a quick summary statement, God's opened up doors now for us to work alongside one other really encouraging Japanese network that's pursuing the same things we are. But we're starting to see true generational growth among Japanese. We're seeing an increase in Japanese partners. And we're at a really exciting time. And we're just trusting God for breakthrough, but we need him to move and give us breakthrough. I'm going to pause right there. That's just a short, again, big picture. Now we're just going to highlight from here just a few stories and then go into some principles. Tex is going to share with us next. He is an awesome brother in Christ. I wonder if we're actually related by blood sometimes. We're so similar. Anyway, but he works hard, loves and serves people like Jesus, is a man of big vision and a humble heart. And I think a lot to learn from his story. So Tex, if you could share, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, thank you, David. I don't know if all the things that you said are true, but I trust you, brother.
That's awesome.
I love
They're
it.
true.
Yeah, all right. So I am Tetsuo Watanabe. I usually go by Tex because not many people can pronounce my Japanese name. And when I was introduced to David, he's like, "You're Tex? Oh, I already love you." He's from Texas, you know. And I'm Japanese, raised in Mexico. I was saved when I was 17, came back to Japan at 19, and lived a life of a prodigal son for 18 years. I came back by God's grace in 2008 when I met and married my wife now. And since then, I'm in the process of living happily ever after. And so I got connected to this church in 2008 and became members there. It's a legacy church, and before COVID-19, we had a little over 1,100 members or attendants coming weekly. And in Japanese context, that's a mega church. here in Japan. And so at this church in 2013, the Lord gave us a vision of growth. And one of the pillars was evangelism, discipleship. And the church came up with this nice slogan. It says, each one, reach one, teach one, to reach one for Christ. It's very catchy and neat. Each one, reach one, teach one, to reach one for Christ. So I think that my awareness to seek multiplication started here at this point. And as you can see, each one, reach one, it's like, okay, go and share the gospel with somebody, right? And well, I didn't know how to do it. I learned how to do it, and I even shared it with my mom. My mom came to Christ, and it was awesome. Like, oh, right, this is great. Yes, maybe I can show you a picture of my mom. Oh, I just wanted to brag.
Amen. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. So my mom,
Amen. That's
I shared.
beautiful.
Thank you. I shared to my mom when she was in Japan, visiting me, and she came to Christ immediately. Like, yeah, I used to I believe because I've seen how Jesus Christ have changed the lives of all my kids. Like, wow, mom, that's an amazing testimony. And I went back to Mexico to offer baptism to her in front of all the family. They all still live in Mexico. So, yeah, my mom came to Christ, and I was um, wondering. Okay, so the teach one to reach one for Christ. This is discipleship. This is multiplication. But I didn't know what this was. I kept wondering for so more years. Like, okay, I've never heard about DMM, discipleship multiplication movements, or church multiplication, church planting movements. I had no idea. I would how to say, I will receive teaching from my church. Yes, and everything that is not from my church is like I will not care. I would just reject, because I try to stay away from the wolves from the outside world. So I kept doing what the church told me to do. But in 2017, our church partnered up with this guy called David Cervenka. He's a very cool guy, and he trained us in T4T for 5 weeks. And in the first meeting, I was like, wow, like this is amazing. Like, okay, I know that many of you have experienced the same thing as I. It's like scales coming off your eyes. Like, whoa, this is completely new. This is the way you teach one to reach one for Christ. So I was very excited. I started applying it in my small group, and my small group started multiplying. I saw growth to third generation, but things happened that they just disintegrated. But I kept doing what I was taught to do. My church stopped doing discipleship because we had another pillar in our vision, that it was biblical counseling. So the church focused in biblical counseling. I left doing the discipleship part. I was like, oh no, but I just kept doing. Then I lost track. I got disconnected with David, but in 2 years later, it was 2 years later when I got connected with David again. And yeah, it was like that was the another shift or big change in my life. um, I received the Lord's calling to become a full-time missionary through David, and I started working with him and training people all over Japan. And it's been a cool ride, awesome ride. People say that Japan is a very hard-soiled, unfruitful place, but well, I've seen amazing things in these 1.5 years. Like, are you really saying the truth? Is no kidding. I mean, it's amazing the things that God is doing. People coming to Christ, people that we train, yes, leading people to Christ, discipling and making groups. I have another picture here of that happening. Yes, I'm gonna share this, and it happens that we have one of the members here uh, in in this group. So this is Yokohama New Calvary Fellowship. This is David. This is the pastor. David and I trained the pastor. And Kelly was there too. Yeah. And half a year later, he and David and me were training all the church members. And this lady, Masi, got fired up and started sharing like crazy and starting new groups. And also, this guy also became also a faithful seed sower, and he led his 9-year boy, his son, to Christ. And this guy, this kid, is awesome. In the next training that we had, training another church, he started training with us. I want to share you this picture. Okay, so here's Masaya. He's giving his 15 second in English. In Japanese context, is 30 because the Japanese word is very polite. So it's like longer. Yes. So he's giving his 30-second testimony to the crowd. They're all adults. This is amazing. This is amazing. Yeah, and we've seen a lot of fruit that way. Yeah. Well, many people are still continuing practicing, and yes, as David mentioned, we've seen like many generation growth sideways. Like, yeah. Wow, I have so many things to share, man, and so little time. This excites me. Yeah, and people in our church have been like focusing in developing our own Timothys, right? And I've seen like members in our church getting their Timothys, and I was like, where's mine? I don't have mine. So I started praying. And some cool thing is that, yeah, the Lord is faithful. And just recently I got my 3. But it was not what I expected that the Lord was gonna give me. I was thinking, okay, the Lord will give me 3 Japanese men, but He gave me 2 ladies and 1 Iranian guy. So it's like, okay, I don't know God, but okay, I'll take what you give me. But the cool story is that well, they're all faithful and eager to learn more and to multiply. And this last guy, the Iranian guy, I'm going to share with you a photo also of him. He is a family leader. Well, he has a family. Oh, wait, sorry. Okay, this is me. This is my wife. This is Amin. Iswanti. He's Iranian. She's Indonesian, and these 2 kids are from her the marriage before getting married to Amin, and Amin is Wanti. His newborn baby is this one, Abbas. Okay, so Amin, Iranian, he was in Iran. He felt that what he was practicing was false, and he started to seek the truth. He was surfing the internet. He found a man called Jesus. He wanted to learn about more. His family learned that he was trying to learn about Christianity. He started to get persecuted, and he left Iran, flew to Malaysia, where he met Iswanti. They got married. They moved to Indonesia, and Iswanti had that same desire to learn about Jesus. They started to attend the local church. Her mom found out, and they started to get persecuted, and they started to get beaten up. People will really attack them. They felt their life in danger, and they prayed to this unknown God, and it was amazing how the Lord brought them to Japan. They didn't have much money. They got a ticket, they got a visa, and they came to Japan with nothing, just 2 bags. he started calling all the churches. Churches will not help much. And he saw in the internet the testimony of a person that was helping refugees from our church. And he contacted our church. The church contacted me, who I was doing Airbnb, so I had rooms. So I had a room for them open. The person that lived in this place moved out the day before, so I had a room for them, and I brought them to our home. And so I was honored to lead them to Christ and started helping them. They moved out of my place. I thought, okay, I don't have to care for them anymore because now they're independent. But I was wrong. Yes, the Lord gave me them to minister, and they became my spiritual son and daughter and family. So the Lord made me realize that I had to take care of them for life. And I started to reconnect with them. They just had their baby, yes, and she couldn't go to church, so I brought church to them, and we started to do house church. And as their faith grew, Amin had this dream. Um, he dreamed that he was training somebody, and immediately he contacted me and told me about his dream. And he said, I think this comes from God. So I think you're supposed to train me. So I started training him. And with this COVID-19, he's almost like he can't go to work. He is afraid he might lose his job, but he has all the time. So daily, we've been training him. And after that, I trained him how to do house church. And he comes to me again. He says, something? Now I know what I have to do, because I have this dream and I saw it 3 times. Yes, in these dreams, God is telling me to go to Yamagata, which is a far place from Tokyo, in the upper northeastern area. And there's no church, and there's no it is unreached and unengaged. And he's going, I think God is telling me to go there to start a church. So he's been a Christian 2 years. He just started getting training, but God has already given him a vision to start a church in a place where there's no Christians. So right now, we're trying to get him prepared before he moves there. He's planning to move there in June. Yes, and we are all excited. We're praying for this family. So please join me in prayer. Remember this family, Amin's family, in your prayers. And this last thing that I want to share, yes, is that well, in all of this, the Lord has shown me that, the importance of fasting and praying, yes, and act always in loving obedience to the Lord. Follow whatever the Lord puts in your heart. I mean, be quick to obey. And also through all these trainings and through the mentoring that I get from David, it's like, yeah, we have to be like cast big visions, like aim big. But the Lord was also showing me to care for this one person that God puts in front of you, right? And be faithful with the little things that God gives you and puts in your hand, because He's gonna hand you, like, I guess, big things are coming. And always be available for those ones that are thirsty to multiply. Well, thank you. Sorry for the long testimony. And yes, I'd like to covet your prayers. Thank you very much.
Amen. Yeah, thanks, brother. And yeah, so wanted you guys to hear a really cool story, kind of from the angle of how God has blessed training and kind of fruit from that side of things. And Becky's going to share just a real recent story of just come directly from just reaching out to the lost. Becky's been on our team for a couple of years, and she's the type of person you look for when you're training. She's a doer, and a wonderful combination of bold action and gentleness and sincere love for people. She's a good friend and a sharp trainer, so I'd love to pass the mic on to her.
Oh man. Now I need to live up to that a little bit. But yeah, so I get to meet a lot of women, a lot of single women usually. And I actually have a friend that's another missionary here in Japan, and she climbed Mount Fuji last year, and you get to stay in little huts. And one of the huts that she stayed in, she met a girl named Saki. And Saki lives near Tokyo in a city just outside of Tokyo called Saitama. And she wanted to learn English. So my friend connected me with her, and we started meeting in November. I finally got to meet my friend Saki in November. And first question she asked was, what are you doing here? And I said, well, I'm a missionary. And she's like, okay, what does that mean? So I said it in Japanese, and she's like, I still don't know what that means. And so I said, well, I'm here to tell people about Jesus. And she's like, okay, who's he? And it was really interesting to see, just to see her, like, she had zero knowledge of Christ. And just sharing the gospel with her. I shared the 3 circles with her, and she agreed to do a Bible study right after that. And that was so cool. I was like, wow, this is happening. And so come December, I tell her the story, of Jesus' birth, the real Christmas story. And she's like, what? It's not Santa Claus's birthday? And I was like, no, it's Jesus's birthday. And she's like, people need to know this. And so she took that story. She was going to a Christmas party that weekend, and she took that story and shared it with all of her friends and her parents. And she was just really excited about sharing. And I'm like, well, do you believe? And she's like, I don't think so. But she was really, she seemed like one of those persons of peace. And I was really excited. And God was just leading our times and our Bible studies. And then the Bible studies started to slow down a bit just around January, and just things got kind of busy for her. And I started getting worried in my heart. I was like, oh no, I've lost a person of peace. How can that happen? But God is so good, and he proves himself to be good. And so there's like a whole month where we didn't even meet. We didn't have a Bible study at all. But Corona happened, and so in the summer she works on Mount Fuji at huts, but they're closing down all the huts for the summer. So she used to be a nurse before she worked on Mount Fuji, and so she's like, well, maybe I need to help people and go back to nursing. And I was like, wow. And she's like, but I'm super scared. And so we sat down, and I just told her the story. That was Easter time, and so I'm like, it's not the Easter Bunny's birthday. She's like, who's the Easter Bunny? But she I told her about Jesus' death and then his resurrection. That's why. And she's like, oh, that's why you celebrate Easter? I need to tell my family. And so she tells her family, and she gets really excited. She's like, Becky, can we meet next week? And so this is all online because she does live kind of far from here. And I was like, yeah, let's meet next week. And so I had planned a beautiful little Bible study for the next week. And I was getting ready to do the 3/3. And I'm like, Saki, how was your week? And she's like, fine. Just tell me more about Jesus' resurrection. Just tell me more about Jesus and what happened after he came back to life. And it's like, okay, let's get into it. And it was really cool. We actually went through the Samaritan woman story, and she's like, wow, Jesus really loves people. It's like, yeah. Yeah. And she's like, he even forgives the sinful woman. I was like, yes. And then she was like really drawn in by Jesus. Like I could see her falling in love with Jesus, which was really cool to see that happen. And then I was sharing the 3 circles because she wanted to share the 3 circles with a friend. So I was kind of going over it, but I was going over it like, hey, what do you think? And we got to the point, and she's like, I'm not ready for Jesus to be my Lord yet, but I do believe in him. And I was like, that's fine. She's like, can we meet next week? And so I was like, this this is happening. She's starting to believe in Jesus. She's starting to feel Jesus's presence with her. And when she told me that she was scared going back to nursing, she's like, maybe Jesus can give me hope. And it's like, yes, Jesus can give you hope. And so the next week, I shared the story of the paralytic with her, because she's a healer for one, but she was totally tracking, and I just saw her face just light up, and just seeing her, like, I could just see it on her face, like this wanting to trust in Jesus. And she even said, like, first, like I mentioned, God heals our heart first before he heals our bad things. She's like, yeah, he has to be forgiven first. Jesus says he's forgiven and then he heals him. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, I am. So when I'm forgiven by Jesus, I was like, yeah. And then she's like, okay, show me the 3 circles again. I really want to get it. And so we're going through the 3 circles. And then she said something to the effect of, so now that I've made Jesus my Lord. And it's like, what? What? You made him your Lord? She's like, yeah, I totally believe in him. And it was so cool because we just went through, like, I'm like, you need to confess with your mouth. Okay, how do I do that? And so we went through the 3 circles, and I'm like, we're broken and we want to have a relationship with God, and I believe in Jesus. And she said it all in Japanese. And so I just saw her heart behind that. She could have just repeated my English words, but she put them into her own Japanese heart language. And that was really cool to watch her do that. And then after that, so the story that David shared at the beginning with the Great Commission, so I took her through that vision cast, and I had her read it. And at the end, she's like, Jesus is with us. I was like, yes. And she's like, I love that part in particular. I was like, yes. And then we went a little bit further. She's like, does that mean I'm a disciple too? And I'm like, yes, you are. You are a disciple. She's like, okay. All right, so that means I need to make disciples. And I was like, yes. And so she looked at me, she's like, Becky, who should I make disciples of? And I said, I'm like, okay, well, here's this oikos map. I said it a lot. But and we went through her 5 people, and she's like, can I put more people on my list? I'm like, yes, of course you can. And then she's like, okay, let's go back to the 3 circles and teach me how to do that so I can share that with these people. And so if you guys know the 411, all of these questions, like why should we share the gospel, we answered with, because you're a disciple. And then who should I share it with? She was already asking, what should I share? She wanted to know the 3 circles so that she can share. And she's like, when should I share this? And when should I pray for these people? And so that's the 4 questions in order. And she led me through the 411. And it was so cool to have those tools ready for her. And she was totally on board. And she told me, like, when she was going to be praying, and when she was going to, like, she was going to pray on the train on her way to work. She was planning to share the gospel that week with her friend and her family. And it was really cool. And so now, so that was just a couple weeks ago, guys. That was just a couple weeks ago. And now I invited one of my possible Timothys with me. There's a college student that wants to know more and how to disciple people. And so we're discipling her together. And she wants to learn more before she gets baptized. But I said, hey, can I ask you in a couple weeks? She's like, yes, please ask me in a couple weeks if I want to get baptized. But right now, I want to learn more what it means to fully give my life to Jesus. And then we just started a Bible study, like a daily Bible study together, kind of just over text message, just with Matthew, like we're reading Matthew together. And so every day, both girls text and say, this is the part I loved about it, and this is the question that I have about it. And so I feel like I can feel both of their hearts getting closer to Jesus in this and learning more about it. So so that's Saki, and like Tex, I'm gonna, I've got a picture. Can I share real quick?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. So that's Saki learning the 3 circles the night of her salvation.
Wow, cool.
My face is a little cut off because I was a little bit crying, but just to see, she got it, and she has the questions down here in Japanese, and she was just totally excited. So yeah.
Praise God.
Yeah.
Cool. Wow. Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, sorry, those are really good stories. I'm a little overwhelmed. Now Caleb I'm going to introduce Caleb real quick. Caleb Evie, he's going to just break down, we're going to take a pause and just look at main lessons. Just kind of the 5 of us got together and we're praying and about what have we learned over the last couple of years, or really 7 years. And he's got a list he's going to share with you. Just real quick, fun story about Caleb. Right after he got trained, literally we were saying goodbye to him, saw him hop on a train, and immediately we saw him turn and start talking to the person next to him, just started sharing. I mean, he never hesitates. I've never seen him hesitate to share the gospel. One of the most bold men I know. And he was born in Tokyo. I was thinking if Jesus were to introduce Caleb, he would say, "This is a Tokyoite in whom there is no deceit." Anyway, he's an awesome brother. He's faithful with every task you give him. And he's going to walk us through some learning points.
Praise the Lord. He is good. Yeah, man, so many things that we've learned. So just highlighting some key ones. So I'm just going to just name some, just kind of 6 key ones, and then I'll go back and explain a little bit about that. And these, you'll probably find out these are not unique to Japan. These are kind of universal, a lot of them. So first is prayer and fasting. The second one is abiding and walking in the Spirit. Third is the mole process. Another one is 139. Fifth is share quickly but go the distance. And then finally, know and train the next steps. So over all of this, I just want to share something just this past a year ago summer that Jeff Sundell made a comment that really struck a chord in me, and I feel like it actually encompasses everything that I just mentioned, all those 6 points, and that is that we need to become the kind of people to whom God can entrust a movement. And that is so critical. One of the biggest lessons I've learned, I am one of the biggest hindrances to the movement happening, and I need to become the kind of person through whom and to whom God can entrust a movement. And first, just right at the top of that list there are those first 2 points of first prayer and fasting. 2019, last year, February, God deeply pressed this on my heart. I'm not the only one. Many others in our team and partners have been moved to prayer and fasting. And soon after, we saw breakthrough. 90% of my current I'm about 6 hours away from the rest of the team in Tokyo. I'm in central Japan, and 90% of my local partners, current partners, and opportunities with the gospel, churches that are open to receiving training, 90% of that has come since I started praying and fasting in February 2019. And so just, this is a move of God. This is his work, and if he's not doing it, then we're laboring in vain. So just intense prayer and fasting. Another one there, the next one is just abiding and walking in the Holy Spirit. Again, so critical. And as we as leaders doing that, he brings people to us. I've had the experience again and again where I go out prayer walking, or I just go out to, my only goal for the day is to just abide and just spend some time with Jesus, and he brings people to me. And it's just like, as you seek him, as you abide in him, as you seek to be led by the Spirit, and the Spirit leads you, go talk to that person, or now's the timing. And it's like, whoa, it's like precision targeting instead of just like shooting in the dark. Last December, we gathered a group of partners pursuing NPL for a 3-day prayer fasting retreat, a SWAP, if some of you guys know that one, that acronym. And every single person came away having heard from God specifically to them with a clarity of focus. Many started seeing breakthrough with people they were reaching out to, or crying out, Lord, give me people to disciple. And now they have people to disciple. And so just that rhythm of walking, abiding, can't emphasize that enough. Another huge one that for me and for many others is this MAL process of model and assist, watch and leave. And we see Jesus doing that. We see Jesus, man, like 70% of everything Jesus did was model, 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 model. And just doing the same thing, model sharing the gospel, model praying, model abiding, model training, model everything you can possibly model, and then assist them in those things, and then watch them as they assist someone in doing that. And Japanese culture already has a strong concept of apprenticeship and discipleship. It doesn't really need to be explained like we need it in English. It's a concept that they have in their culture of the apprentice sitting under the master, watching, and then getting to do something, and little by little learning how to do that. So just a lot has happened since we've learned how to really do that well. Connected with that model, assist, watch, and leave is this 139 concept, and it's come up a couple times already just on this call. Just 2 Timothy 2:2, what you have heard from me, received from me in the presence of many witnesses, and trust reliable men who can teach others also. And so it's just that from Timothy to reliable men to others. And it's this going deep with a few. And as we've already mentioned, we've just seen this kind of broad, lot of people going only kind of one generation deep, but we need to see depth. And the depth started coming as we started focusing on who are the faithful people, who are the available people, who are the teachable and reproducing people. Focus time and energy in them, pour into them, spend time with them, live with them, be with them, walk with them. And all of a sudden we're starting to see some second, third generation happen as we focus on that. The fifth point was share quickly, but go the distance. This has been really, really key. Right at the first couple times in the first couple encounters of a relationship, share your testimony, share the gospel, be very quick to share, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, this is who I love, this is who I want to share with you. But then go the distance, take the time. In Japan, anywhere in the world, and certainly in Japan, it has a whole word for it, of relationship of trust is really huge, really important. And so just walking with them, loving them, and being patient with them at their pace, taking as long as is needed to help them move to the next step, whether that is an unbeliever moving to the step of faith, or whether that be a believer moving in the steps of discipleship. If it takes 4 repeats of the same lesson to let it sink in, it's worth it. It's worth the repeat. The goal of getting through something like the commands of Christ or other lessons is not to get through them. The goal is obedience and to Jesus and growing in him as a disciple. So share quickly, go the distance. One of the quick thing on that is that, man, we've seen Japan, there are so many more people willing to hear, ready to hear than we are willing to admit a lot of times. And as many have already shared in this call, we just broad seed sowing. There is ready soil. There are people who are maybe not ready to believe right away, but they're impacted by it. They're going, wow, that's amazing. There's a positive reaction. And so where I am right now, I'll share the gospel and I'll ask, have you heard the story of Jesus before? And 9 out of 10 will say, no, I've never heard this before. And it's like, the seed needs to get sown. That's the biggest problem. Jesus said it himself, that's the lack of laborers. And so we need to get laborers out there. We need to get seed out there in the field. Finally, just this the 6th point of know and train the next steps. And this was something actually really recent for us. That was kind of an aha for many of us, is really help each of our disciples know, okay, if this happens, what do I do next? If they say you want to follow Jesus, what do I do next? If okay, I've done 411, what do I do next? What if I meet someone who's interested in knowing about Jesus, but they only have 5 minutes and they got to leave? What do I do? And just helping them with those next steps. And we've already, Becky was already sharing, that was really helpful for her with Saki. A couple of the guys that I'm discipling have same thing. It's like, oh, I know what to do. I know what to do. And so just those simple next steps, but help them really get solid on that. And then they grow in confidence. Man, so much more we could share, but I'll limit it to that. So.
Wow, thanks, brother. Yeah, and again, if feel free to actually maybe anyone who's those of you that are presenting, if you could put your email in the chat, that'd be great. And feel free to reach out to these guys and bother them. There's a lot of good wisdom about reaching Japanese. So, and I just want to introduce Knut next. So Knut Topland, he's going to share us a little case study of what's happening with him in Nagoya. And I don't have enough words to describe how awesome he is and his family. Just a few quick snippets. So he has a depth of relationship with Christ that's difficult to describe. He loves and understands Japanese people and has a real good grasp on contextualization. God has graciously allowed his family to go through some incredible trials and suffering over years, and they've come out of that closer to Jesus, and he's rewarding them with incredible fruit. So I'm blessed to hear from him. So I'm sure you will be too.
Wow, yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. There's so much to learn. I'm learning so much, and that's the amazing thing to be over here in Japan and learning to know all these great people. I met David 5 years ago. He mentioned it actually when Yinkai and he and Yinkai's wife had a teaching in Osaka, and that was the same time our mission and our commitment with a traditional church that our mission planted 50 years ago. So at that time it was just perfect. We felt led into the T4T, and we were like asking the Lord, where do we go? Where do you want us to go? And before everything happened and before meeting them, we prayed and got through prophetic pictures and words. And then we started actually going on day trips by car to ask the Lord, where do you want us to go? And we ended up in eastern part of Nagoya, which is an urban area. And so we used to live in a rural area. And there we started from scratch. And we started to build our Oikos network. And we are a team of 3 units. I'm Norwegian, and we have teams in our team. We also have Nathan Michelson, who's joining us here. He's from the States, but we have senior missionaries who's been planting churches and sharing the gospel for 40 years, including new, fresh missionaries like me too. And what we actually did, we just focused on the team. We focused on ourselves being really solid and see our giftings and focusing on Oikos and praying for the people that we met. And we met each week, going deeply in the Bible. We started doing T4T principles, and that's kind of we saw some fruit. And people got saved, got baptized in other churches or in our group of mission. But what I see and always seen is that we see so many housewives receiving Christ, and usually men are absent. I mean, whatever church you go to, you see it's a lot of women, and that's what I've been always having a burden for men and businessmen, and because they live a different life than the wife and children, and that's kind of the strange thing, you know, when they come home to the family for a day, maybe the whole day, when a day off, they have a term actually calling, you know, he has to do family service. And that's not what God created us to be. He created us to be whole families. And I really have a burden to see whole families saved. So that's something I've been vision casting into my team, and we also seeing different fruit. I think actually now the last year we've seen a change. God is moving us into going long into families and to see whole families getting saved. And it's not like something we have been working hard on, but we see God is using our burden. And one thing is actually when my daughter, she got my youngest daughter, got sick with brain cancer and died, and during that short time, we just received care for everyone around us. Usually, you know, us as missionaries, we give, serve, but this time, no, we received so much love, care, and food. And actually God worked through non-believers at that time, and we didn't even know much of that. So I just want to share one story of one family that we've met not a long time ago, a year, more than a year, but they got learned about Jesus a little bit more than a year, and now the whole family is saved. And it started with a wife. She didn't know Jesus, but she always felt that there is a God there, and she wondered if it was the Shinto, which is kind of the, you know, the God here in Japan, and the nature in the Shinto religion, and no Christians in her family. But it started, and she told me it started actually when she went to kindergarten, and she didn't like kindergarten, and the teacher was upset and sent her to the principal, which was actually a Catholic lady, and probably there she started hearing something about God during Psalms, or that this lady prayed or something, we don't know. Anyway, we met her just a few years ago in the kindergarten where we had our little daughter in, and it's a Christian kindergarten, and my wife, she got a prophetic word for her and shared that, and then she just said like, wow, there's something when we sing kind of a hymn, there's something talking to me. And fast forwarding here, you know, while our daughter was sick, Yumi, she showed a special interest in the Bible and joined actually our monthly celebration we have for different house churches once a month. And it was that day, it was a little girl, and this little girl, she she was 9 years old at that time. She actually taught how to do a personal devotion, how to learn to read the Bible. And this is the lady, you know, Yumi-chan, and she had a really, really deep interest in how can I learn more about God, and she just wanted to do that. And then, you know, a few months later, her son got asthma and needed to be hospitalized, and that was exactly the same hospital as our daughter. So my wife and Yumi got a lot to share together. They shared food and great time. And she said, oh, I just bought the Bible, she said, and I want to read whole of it and then get baptized. And this lady, she loves reading the Bible, and she, not Bible, but books. So she really want to know about what is it about. And my wife was happy and asked, you know, is it okay if I share that with my prayer support group? So, and she loved that. And a few months later, we have learned that at that special time, she felt the Holy Spirit talk to her through the Bible, and the word started living. And because of our daughter's sickness and death, we had not much to give. So we just showed a pure, life, how it was, how tough it was, how grieving, but also that we had trust in Jesus, even though our daughter died or not. You know, we knew that she's safe there. She's safe in heaven, and that's the best healing we can ever get. And and she died that summer. And actually, the day she died, a lady who came right after she died to the hospital. Another lady, she had the gospel to her, and she believed right away. So when she got baptized, I invited this Yumi to her to this baptism to just show that, you know, this is baptism actually, and just to give her kind of a vision casting. What is it about? And and then I asked her, you know, what do you think about baptism? When are you getting baptized? I talked the Japanese way, not guiding them through something. So she didn't answer right away, but less than a month later, she called me. I want to get baptized, and I really feel I do need to do it right very soon. And she came night over, same night, and me and my wife talked to her, and I asked her, have you asked your husband about this? We don't want secret baptisms. And she said, yes, I did. And he agreed. And then we asked the court, you know, questions and prayed with her. And, but not only that, I also asked her, are you ready for persecution? It will be, to become a Christian is not everything easy. And she understood actually what it means, you know, not to pray to other gods and you know, different things like that. And we decided to baptism for this baptism 3 days later in our another believer's neighborhood garden, who's also discipling her. And that lady asked her non-believing husband if it was okay to have a baptism in her garden, and that was okay. And he was there, and Yumi's husband and children and friends, and half of them non-believers. A great testimony. And we could see, like, there's so many people like actually coming up to said, oh, I think there's something, God is doing something in my life. So so we saw right after that another family get baptized in another church, a wife and husband. And you know, I started Bible study right away with Yumi, with the 411 and commands of Christ. And what I can see is that, you know, both of us learned a lot from the Holy Spirit while studying. It's not only, you know, you teach somebody, but you actually receive a lot. And that's what a kind of a great learning point, you know, where new believers, there's so much more than you know of, and you learn so much. And she was like a sponge, and we, you know, made goals each time, and was honest, like, oh, this time it was hard to do it, or the Holy Spirit led us into something different. And we did, you know, get baptized. It's kind of a lesson, one of the lessons, 10 lessons is about to get baptized. And of course she was baptized, but 2 weeks later, she told me at a picnic, she told me, oh yeah, my son got baptized last Saturday. And I was like, what? Of course I was happy, but also wondering, yeah, how and when and how did it go? I asked her, you know, this is amazing. And she said, yeah, my son, he said, oh, I believe in Jesus, you know, I really believe in him. And then Yumi asked the questions, so like, do you believe that he, you know, he died for you, and, you know, all the sin, and, you know, died for you and forgives you, and the whole thing. And then, you know, right after that I said, yeah, and then I'm a Christian, the boy said. And then the mother said, well, yeah, actually you're Christian. Now you're Christian. Yeah, but I need to get baptized, this boy said. He's 5 years old. And then he said, I want to get baptized now, soon. And then, like, okay, should we ask Knut about it, and ask me? Do we need to do that? And then, you know, she went through and she said, hey, who should we invite? And the next day they invited a few people, same age of him, and some parents, some non-believers and believers, and they did a baptism in their bathtub. And we can just celebrate with them later and see that, you know, here it's multiplication, not going in the neighborhood, but in the family. So we just kept going. I told her, be prepared for persecution in different ways, and you know, share the gospel to your oikos. And we prayed together for her oikos and my oikos, and we prayed for her family to get saved. And then a few months ago, I had a dinner with her husband, and he said, you know, I feel I believe in Jesus. I really, my wife has changed so much. You know, I've known her for 20 years, and then no, not 15 years, and then but yeah, so yeah, do you want to say yes to Jesus? When do you get baptized? You know, I asked those questions, and he said, well, I'm just waiting for the trigger. And I said, what trigger? Yeah, to get baptized. And I said, instead of giving a lot of, you know, gospel and, you know, more of that, I just said, why don't you just ask Jesus to get that trigger? So he did that. Even though I didn't know, he did it in the same evening, and then he saw Jesus, and Jesus told him next week. So then I didn't know that just the day before. So we had this great conversation with him, and invited a few people he wanted to have there, and so we were like 3-4 families. He got baptized, and also their youngest son got baptized at that same day. So now the whole family is baptized. And just a few days later, the lockdown, the state of emergency happened to Japan. And now we study on Zoom. And the Zoom thing, I can show you the picture of how we do that, you know, and what he really want to do when you do oikos is, I want to share to my brother. This weekend, we're going to go back to my jikka, which is actually where he was born, where his grandparents, his whole family lives, kind of in rural area. And that's kind of the key point, what I see. I tell everyone about the persecution will come, because if we don't share, like in urban area, if we don't share and tell them that you have to tell the story to your closest people, then I don't believe there will be a big multiplication. I believe then it can easily stop. But if they are so bold going back to their home, share to their parents, maybe brother, in their little small village, it can be explosion. I'm very sure. And these guys are so bold, more than me. You know, like it's easy to travel as a missionary overseas, but actually to preach the gospel in your hometown, like the disciples did in Jerusalem, kind of a hometown. I mean, that's hard. That is hard. And then I hope and believe we can see many people. So right now we just do it on Zoom, Bible study as a couple. And I'm really encouraged and to see actually how they can go the next step with their family and hear stories. So this Yumi, she's like every day asking me questions, like always asking Bible verses really hard. So she's like that, and he's more the cool guy. He doesn't want to teach too much, you know. He want to experience and see like that. So it's really exciting to be part of that. But one main thing I think is very important here. All this work I've seen here is not done by one person. There's a team of a family, a spiritual family. And I believe if we want to see whole families saved, like we've seen some of them here now in Japan the last year, then we have to be whole families. We have to show our weakness, we have to show our strength, and also laziness, and also to really think like the new believers are not babies. They are actually mature, and they can teach us a lot. They can bring back to the big family. So we eat a lot, we spend time, we cry, we pray, we and play, and so that's kind of one of the things. And another thing is actually yeah, Caleb told about us. The last part is actually to model. Actually, you tell them the next step, like what I saw, that just bringing that lady into another baptism and just try to pick on, what about you? How do you feel, about baptism, and just to, even though before they're saved, just try to lead them into the next step so they can actually come with a decision. It's not a teaching, but it's a kind of, you just do it with them and see actually what's happening. And then a teaching can come later, it can be a great study and check the Bible and, go see all how it's actually done in the Bible too. So that's kind of what I've learned the last few, the last year.
Amen.
Okay.
Amen. Thank you, Knut. Yeah, so we have a little bit time here for questions. Actually, in Japan, when we train and we say it's time for questions, no one says anything, and it's usually really silent. So I came prepared with another way to use the time if we need it. But if you have a question, go ahead and someone has one, say it. If someone else is talking and you have a question, go ahead and start posting them in the chat. We probably, if there are lots of questions, may not have time for all of them, but we do want to open floor if there are any. So I'll stop talking.
Sophia has one. In the chat.
What's the biggest challenge you face in Japan? Okay, yeah, wow, great question. Who wants to answer that one?
Yeah, I can answer. I can try. What I feel, one biggest challenge is to preach the gospel to a man, a guy, a businessman, because they don't respond. They're just polite, listening. They don't kind of reject. They're just listening, but you don't get a follow-up question back. It's just silence. And then like, okay.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Was someone else going to say something also?
I was just going to say that one of the biggest challenges comes not from the lost, but from the church. Just a defeatism mentality and a survival mentality. I've been told to my face times when after sharing vision, like, look, if we can just maintain what we have, that's enough. And so this kind of that mindset is a big barrier, and it's like an infectious disease. It can get into you if you're not careful. So that would be something I would share.
That's great. I see another question before. I really do want to give a chance. Some of us may answer that different. Anyone else, Becky or Tex, or we have a few other workers here. Yeah, Tex, go ahead. Oh, you're on mute, brother.
Sorry. Something that I see very common here is that people don't share to their oikos, to their families, the fear of having dispute conflicts within the family drives people away from sharing. But of course, there are families that have shared, like Knut gave us a very good testimony of how families have been saved, the whole families. Yeah, but many of the Japanese people that are believers, maybe most of them, they're the wife that they're believer. They want to share, but they relent to share, right? And they don't know how to share. So that's one of the big issues that I see.
Thanks, Tex.
I think real quick too, just culture. A lot of people will say, "Oh, I'm Japanese. I can't believe in Jesus," and so that's just been in their mind for a long time. "Oh, I'm Japanese. I'm not. Jesus is from America, so I can't believe in that." So that's a struggle too.
Yeah. Okay, got some good questions here. Real quick, do you use the honor shame and the 3 circles, and how does it go? We have We do not. Actually, I don't know if I've even seen that honor shame
Oh,
three circles.
I do, David.
Oh, okay. How about you go ahead? Oh, you do. Okay, that's good.
The way where I put it in is when I'm talking about Jesus' death on the cross. It says he died on the cross, taking the penalty for our sin. He took our sin and he took our shame, is what I say. And so that's where I include that in there. So not so much you are in a situation of shame as much as just saying he's taken upon himself our shame as well as other things.
Yeah, that's good. When we train it, we try to focus on the pictures versus the script, and it's been neat. A little, probably all of us are using slightly different tweaks and stuff, so that's good. Thank you, Caleb. Okay. What do you do when someone wants to believe and get baptized, but their family is very opposed to that? Anyone faced that issue? And how have you addressed that? By the way, other people like Nathan Michelson, I know a lot of awesome people on the call. If you feel led to pop in, feel free to. Some of you guys that are here on the team.
For me, I think when we have had young people, their parents might be opposed, but if they're old enough, like they're a college student or they're old enough to make their own decisions, and there's one girl up in Sendai who's battling that. She doesn't want her father to feel so bad. She has such a love for her parents that she doesn't want to go against them. But step by step, some will wait a while and gain the confidence of their parents. This is not like an Islamic country. You're not going to get killed. It used to be that way. But Japan has freedom. And so we encourage them, if they can overcome the opposition and go ahead and get baptized and join, not that they're rejecting their family, but they're joining in a new spiritual family. And if the parents see how happy it makes them, usually later on the parents will change their mind. And, they want their child to be happy, basically. So if it helps the child, the parents will come eventually. That's my feeling.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nathan. And a lot of years of experience behind that feeling.
42 years here.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah. So we may not get to all these. I'm just going to hit a few here, but and also for us, it's only 12:30, so some of us can hang out a little bit longer. We'll officially close up at 30 after, just for some of you that are up late. But some of us can hang out a little bit longer as needed. But do you find that Japanese find it difficult to commit to one Lord and Savior due to the coexistence of Shinto, Buddhist religions? Who wants to tackle that one?
Yeah, I can try. It's I don't have so much experience in that, but I know those who, it's not probably those without a good person who disciple that person. It's easier to just go back to where you belong to, but we have to be very focused that there's only one God, and even though they believe everything, even the stones are gods, trees and big things, everything there's a God spirit in everything. That's kind of a hard mindset to change, so we have to give them that time to get that change. But when I can see like this family getting just say yes to Jesus, I can see there's really black white. They're like no more, they just no more all the gods, it's only Jesus. And you can also use a lot of images like they talk about the mountain to go, God is put on top of the mountain, but there are many paths up to the mountain, to get to the top. But then we can say, it's actually Jesus, he came down from that mountain down to you, and you only need him. You don't need to struggle through life to get the Savior. He only. And then, you know, there's, but of course you're falling back. It's like us too, you know, you usually go back to what was safe before. So if you don't have a good, you know, good spiritual family around the people, it's a, yeah, it can easily be like, okay, go back to believing more gods and go to the shrine, yeah, just in case.
Yeah, actually, I do want to add one more. That's amen to that, and that mountain illustration is super helpful. One day we've slightly adapted the commands of Christ as we use Acts 17 as our repent and believe story, and there's been not all of us do, but that's been a really helpful, just to share the story that Paul shares on the Areopagus really helps knock down. I mean, it really clearly says there is only one God, and you need to repent of not following him. And actually it's been a little bit, I've honestly questioned that at times, but it's a good way to make a lot of, I mean, for us, for me, the first 2 years, a lot of gospel shares would be like, oh, that's really sweet. Thanks for telling me your story. I'm glad that's good for you. You know, it's not real important to me. When we started using Acts 17 as a kind of a follow-up to that, it makes the conversation more serious and shows them that we kind of hit that early on, I'd say, in general. So, and I really appreciate Knut's stories of challenging them about persecution and things, yeah, early on. I feel like, actually, I think it was Chuck, you shared this when you were here, that, you know, people were saying Japanese are real, maybe we're underestimating Japanese by saying we need to make things lighter or easier because they're so busy, but rather we need to raise the bar and challenge them a little bit because they're used to that. So that was really helpful for us to think about at times. So not sure exactly how to prioritize here, but yeah, I'll just keep going in order. Oh, this is one of my favorite questions. How true is the statement, it takes many years to see just one Japanese person turn to Jesus? And what might be the reason why people tend to say that statement? I'm going to hold off and let someone else answer that, but I love that. I love that statement, that question, that conversation.
Let me take that. There is an aspect of spiritual atmosphere in location to location and country to country. There are places in the world where it's just you hardly say anything and people are saying yes to Jesus. And so there is an aspect where there is a spiritual atmosphere that needs to change in this nation. And until that does, you're battling a lot harder to get through. And yet at the same time, we have consistently see people come to faith way faster than 1 year. So there's a little bit of both. My experience is that the majority of people who say that statement are not sharing the gospel. Therefore, they have disqualified themselves from being able to really have a platform to say that with.
Yeah, my feeling on that is that, you know, like with the Philippian jailer, it can happen in Japan. In one night, it can happen. We had a deaf man, you know, I think the second time he heard it, he accepted. Like 2 weeks later, let's be baptized, you know. But I think generally we see that there was a background. They went to a Christian kindergarten. There were some inputs to their life. Like this one Chinese lady, she was on the airplane and some missionary sat by her and thought, you know, God is after me. And so she landed here, ended up accepting Christ on the day that our grandchild died in the hospital parking lot. But God had been preparing her, you know, for several years. And then when we first met her, bam, you know. So I think it's both sides are true. There's a foundation, and yet it can happen suddenly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've seen.
Amen. I think really good. Yeah, I think Caleb, yeah, both of you said that really well. And both of you have more experience sharing the gospel in Japan than I do. So I want to emphasize that last point. Yeah, again, that you see both. I think one phrase that has helped all of us is walk with the walkers and run with the runners. Yeah. And there is a reality there is a reality that the average Japanese person with no background does take longer. And in general, Japanese society is a slower decision-making society. Like, and I don't want to ignore that. And so I think we need to be, in some ways, especially the outside missionaries, we need to understand, especially if you're really familiar with movement strategy and fast salvation and things maybe in the West. If you come over, you need to understand that you may not have the normal responses, but you need to be willing to go a little bit further with them. But there are people that are willing to jump. It's kind of, you just always got to be playing that game of always leave room in your schedule to be sowing, looking for the runners. But there, you should have some people you're walking with too, because like Becky, we just heard some examples here of forceful people that are reaching their oikos that took time to come to know that. And so but at the same time, like Nathan said too, there are people ready to jump in the boat right now and have been. My wife and I met, and this story is still developing, but we met her in the park, and I mentioned I was a missionary, and she's like, oh, I've been reading the Bible for 2 months, and my wife was like, yeah, do you want to get together and talk about it? She's like, of course, really? Is that possible? Can I do that? And so there's people out there like that too. And like Nathan said, there are a lot of them have a background, but they're there, and no one, there's not many people actually giving them a chance to believe quickly. And actually, I'm going to quote you on this, Nathan. I quote you all the time, is just go as far as with them as they'll let you go. And so like and Nathan probably spends most time of us out in the field gospeling and just beginning with a conversation here. Hey, my name's Nathan. How are you? And you just go, are they ready to hear the gospel? Or, are they willing to hear the gospel? Are they willing to receive Christ? Yes. Go to the next step. Just go as far as they're willing to let you go. I'm going to stop talking now. We got other questions, but good question. I like that one. It's complex and helpful. I said that I would officially close this at 30 after. Let me do that. This is what we do in Japan, by the way. We need to make an official close that's punctual, and then doesn't always work. But people want to hang out later, that's great. But Masi, would you feel comfortable closing us in prayer in Japanese?
Jeez.
Thank you. Wow. All right. What a blessing. Thank you.
はい、ありがとうございます。Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah.
Okay. じゃあ、お祈りします。はい、天のお父様、今日も本当に多くの方々が心を合わせて、日本のために、祈り、また、あなたの御心を尋ねることができたことをありがとうございます。主よ、この国をどうぞ憐れんでくださって、一人でも多くの方があなたを知って、あなたの救いと解放を得ることができるように助けてください。そしてこのように日本のために仕えてくださっている、宣教師の人たちをありがとうございます。どうぞ彼らを守り、励まし、必要を満たして、さらに油注いで用いてください。またこれから日本のために祈ってくださる方々、来ようとしてくださる方々をありがとうございます。主をどうぞ、私たち、本当にインサイダーとアウトサイダーが協力して、これからもあなたの働きができるように導いてください、用いてください。ありがとうございます。今日の時を感謝いたします。イエス様の前によってお祈りいたします。アーメン。
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. So what's the biggest barrier in general that keeps people from becoming disciples of Jesus? And by that, do you mean, that was from John, you mean that's a little bit different than, oh yeah, the earlier was a little bit more vague. What's the biggest challenge? So biggest challenge to becoming a disciple of Jesus. Yeah, anybody want to answer that one?
Ancestors is a big one. Not wanting to dishonor the tradition and of the family and ancestors and things like that is one that a lot of people have shared with me. A lot of times they're interested, they desire. Again, one person said, if it wasn't for my family, I would start following Jesus right now. And so he himself admitted that family was the barrier. And it wasn't even necessarily that the family was threatening to disown him or reject him, but just he himself struggled with that. Another person similar to that said, if I choose to follow Jesus, if I become a disciple of Jesus, then everything that I've been taught, everything that my family and my grandparents and great-grandparents believed has been a lie. And I'm not sure if I'm willing to accept that. So just family lines and traditions, and the sense of honor, keeping honor to that, is one.
Hey, Caleb, could I actually ask you to facilitate from this point forward? I need to actually give this space back to my family to eat lunch. I'm going to move upstairs back to my office and shifting a little bit. I'm still here, but would you mind continuing to facilitate?
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you.
Anyone else wanted to add anything to that before moving on? Those will ticks.
Well, I could answer that in different aspects. There are different aspects, I think. One of them, I recently realized that it can be like myself. Like I was blessed by having people that I could lead to faith, but I failed to disciple. I failed to be available for them. I failed to love them. I failed to walk with them. I was just like my mom. I led to Christ 5 years ago. I just gave her a Bible and some books to read, and I just left her alone. And I thought because of the distance, I could not disciple her. But I was completely wrong. I should have walked with her at her pace. And when I realized this last year, we started doing online church. So with Mexico and Japan, we started using FaceTime to do online church. And well, we were discipling my mom. And when we started doing that, my dad, who was not a believer, also joined there. And by doing that, my dad came to Christ. And my mom was like developing this spiritual hunger. Everybody was busy. We stopped doing church online, but my mom kept asking me to do it daily. And we're just reading the Bible, and I would explain to her. And we were reading together, but recently she's reading ahead, and then she's coming back to me asking questions. Yeah. And then relating with other passages, and she's developing this hunger, and also the Lord is opening her eyes to understanding the scriptures. Yes, and this because I walk with mom through the scriptures, and also with Amin. Today I realize why Amin has this hunger. Yes, well, he had it before, but he developed this desire to do this for the people of Japan. Why? Because I think the Lord made me model what I do to him. So he was close. I was walking with him. It was showing him what I do, and I just realized that this is he was the first one that the Lord gave me after making my decision to follow him and in full-time ministry. So I just realized today that he was the first one that I baptized. Yeah. And yeah, and it's amazing. It's amazing. So yeah, so it's loving them, taking care of them, and I can say this for the existing believers too. Yes, the lay believers that they are not doing anything. Well, I think that we have to walk with them, yes, so that they can also have an opportunity to realize that they are really disciples and they want to follow Jesus.
Awesome. So I'm going to keep moving. I'm just going to maybe keep it to 1 or 2 answers so we can just get through the questions. Another question is, are you finding it effective to start with gospel stories and commands of Christ with interested folks rather than creation to Christ stories? Knut, you want to take that?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, because we're so different and we have different gifting. I think that's very important to think that we have different spiritual gifts. And for me, I just share small, not the full story, but share something good from God, something that just see their interest. Because usually I do it through relations, people I know, maybe the husbands to the wives that are saved, just to put in something, plant seed. So I don't use kind of for pre-evangelism kind of a study, because they're not ready for it. And I think when they really say, oh, I really want to learn more about this, then they're so ready. So then it's, yeah, then we can do, all different types of teaching together with them. So I that's my experience, but there are other experiences as well.
Yeah, we actually did not have a set of stories for pre-believers for a long time. We just now developed it. We kind of have played with different things, but we have developed one now, and it's been helpful to have. But like Knut, I want to again, we kind of had to have very simple tools as possible to help people know what's next, but have options for the different speeds. And I want to tell you an interesting story that is actually going to affirm what Knut's saying, and maybe, but this Japanese woman that came to faith about maybe 3 years ago, between her salvation and baptism, she had like 6 studies going. Is regularly talking about leading people to faith. New Japanese believer that's leading people to faith, and she's leading a church and training other people. I asked her what her gospel goal was, and she said, my only gospel goal is to say hi to someone if I see them twice. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And she unpacked, she said, and now her name's Yasuko. Yasuko is very forward about Jesus. Like you can't spend like more than 10 minutes with her without hearing about her story, Jesus. But she really focused on loving people and hearing them and letting them know who she is. And she says she meets them, talks to them, finds out who they are. And as that progresses, like maybe it's at a convenience store or something and they work there, she'll invite them to coffee, and then again spend a lot of time getting to know them. And then she shares the 3 circles fairly quickly. But she said sometimes it can take 3 to 6 months between sharing the 3 circles to getting in a study with them. And so she's sharing things quickly and early. She has this kind of long timeline, and then she won't get into a traditional 3/3 study with them until she's sat and read a whole gospel with them. And she Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John in person. But what's crazy is she's so fruitful and she's multiplying. And so, I know Chuck has said, what's the quote about smooth is slow, and I'll let you share it.
Slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Yeah, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So we're learning. Actually, I'm giving you more answers than you asked for, but stage right now where we're trying to find who God's working with among the Japanese by using super simple stuff. And now that we're finding the Japanese using, we're kind of shifting into a learning mode of learning what are Japanese using to reach Japanese, and we're starting to adjust things. And so we're kind of just now hitting that phase. So ask us in a year when we have a more clear answer. So hope that doesn't muddy things too much, but we have the classic tools that us foreigners are using. Sorry, go ahead.
Just again, maybe a couple quick answers to this. What advice would you give to those aspiring to move to Japan for missions?
Go.
Amen.
Yeah, and maybe you know, God is, Jesus is with you always till the end of the earth. So even though on the airport, that he can use you there. So it means it's not like when you are in Japan, then everything will be set up. Because when you come to Japan, then you feel you can't speak to anyone, and then you feels like a baby, and like, oh, how gonna do, you know, all these things. So you have to trust Jesus. You really, really need to have kind of this really loving and abiding in Jesus before thinking coming to Japan, and because that's so important, because here you don't have the same stuff as you have in your home country with a group of a team, and I mean a family, spiritual family, the same way. You have to start from scratch, and of course you can come into a team over here, but it's kind of language is maybe the biggest challenge, and but of course you can start sharing in English. That's to some people.
Yeah, I would say just be as faithful as you can to what God has called you to do where you are. Get as equipped as you can, even if it may be tools that are going to be tweaked or a little bit different than when you actually get to Japan. But be as faithful and grounded in the principles and just faithful with that, so that when you come, you're not having to learn those things, learn to get confident, learn to become bold, and learn the language and learn the culture all at the same time. But you've got the one fairly under your belt, and now you can focus on things like language and culture, etc.
Yeah, Kevin answered a little bit in the thing, and I totally agree. Just have a good support base, have people praying for you, pray now. It is hard soil, but the more we pray, the more it gets tilled up. And so yeah, just pray now for those opportunities, and have people praying with you. Have a good support base where you're from, and then I agree, yeah, start studying the language. It's a hard language, but and you'll be learning it for the rest of your life, I hear. But yeah, just learn the language and just pray a lot. So
Okay, a few more here. Go to one that hasn't been kind of already touched on in the chat already. In the context of sharing the gospel, what cultural differences were the most difficult to hurdle at first, or were the most surprising one once faced with it in person?
I think everything was surprising when I first came to Japan, honestly. It's so different than America, and just the culture is so into everything, like the religion, the like Shinto, Buddhist, it's in everything. It's in the holidays, it's in just how they think, really. And so yeah, I think I was pretty surprised when I first started sharing the gospel in Japan. But people are open, to hearing, and that's a big surprise too. I don't know if that answers the question, but
Feel free to come back to that. There's another one. After a Japanese person has converted, how do they handle the family shrine for dead relatives, the plaque of their names, the carrying of the grave memorial, assuming converts that own a home and have these responsibilities?
Maybe Nathan can
I was thinking
answer.
the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, we have had various experiences. Idle burnings, take the thing out to the riverbed, pour gasoline or, some kind of oil on it and burn it up. That's the more extreme kind. And very good, because I want them to light the match. That's the best way, rather than just giving it to me to get rid of it. And you know, some of these butsuddans, they don't burn very easily, these Buddhist things. They're hard wood. You gotta have some fuel on there. And the Shinto god shelves, they burn quite easily. Yeah, a little flimsier, you know. And but you know, some people may not be brave to do that. They will give the idol to their onisan, or you know, to give it back to the temple, or give it back to another relative, which is not the best, but that is a way to do it. Anyway, try to get the thing out of your house, you know. And I had one guy, he wasn't even a Christian yet. He said, I'll get my screwdriver. He went up on a ladder, started taking the God shelf down right away. I said, wow, now he's Christian, you know. I mean, but that's a decision that they have to make. If they're going to believe in the true God, get rid of the other gods. And other things in their purse, you know, good luck charms, take them out of the purse, you know, and, you know, there might be other things that they relied upon, little things on the car, protection for the car, different things. You know, there might have been prayers from the Shinto shrine since the time they were small, you know, and things that need to be broken off in prayer, invisible kind of things, not only physical idols, you know. So kind of dealing with, if they have a sincere decision, they'll be willing to go forward with cutting off these other things. And that's an important part of this, being truly converted. Yeah.
And that is something that does need to be addressed. Unfortunately, there's too many within the existing church in Japan that still have not gotten rid of these things.
Yeah.
So it needs to be addressed fairly early on. All right, I'm going to put the next two questions together. They're related. To the missionaries in Japan, what is your level of Japanese language proficiency? How long did it take you to get there? And then related question is, and I just lost it, is conversational level in Japanese sufficient to be a missionary? So we'll kind of put those ones together.
I can say, I mean, if you work in a team, then it doesn't matter so much, because if you trust each other, I mean, this is my disciple. It's not like that, you know. You use the strength of the team, then you can start faster. Because if you got a calling for Christ, you know, to Jesus, to go to Japan, that's the first thing you want to do, you know. You want to share with others. So when you make friends, invite other people. But like on the levels, that's very individual. I came when I was 30, and I'm not so good in, you know, languages. I didn't like actually English. So I learned that when I was in university.
You're doing great.
Yeah, I'm doing, you know, because my father-in-law, Nathan, you know, he's American, so I had to speak more English. Anyways, Japanese is difficult, and so I just made a decision. Kanji, you know, the Chinese character, I don't need to write them by hand, you know, but if I can read it and use technology like smartphone, you know, and, you know, then it works, you know. You can do conversational language, no problem, you know. That's kind of, the main thing is to start talking to people. You know, and of course, then you want to be better in writing and like formal stuff. But you know, it takes time. It takes time. Yeah, I have to leave now. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's
Hey, thank you, Knut.
Yeah, it's a new house church. Only Japanese ladies we are hosting. So.
All right.
Bye-bye.
God bless you. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah. Amen.
All right. I got one more question, unless someone wants to touch on that last one. So one more question is, as a Christian and as a missionary, do you avoid festivals?
Great question. I asked that question recently, actually, as we were invited to. I can't remember the answer I was given. I think it was, I mean, it's a person by person conviction, but I have no, our family went and we got a free goldfish out of it. and anyway, but we were invited by a family we were building a relationship with and reaching out to. Is one of the longer, slower relationships, and it went a long way and created good gospel opportunities. I think it really is a conviction thing. There have been times in which I did in my, I think it's sort of as a Romans 14 kind of thing, just eating meat sacrificed to idols. Follow your own conscience. Everyone could land on a different page in this room. There's been times in which I would not step foot within one of the red Tory gates. And, I went to a festival and it was a good opportunity to talk. And we did a prayer walking training with a Japanese guy who talked about we need to be attacking the temples with prayer and how to do that and stuff. So there's just a wide variety of perspectives out there. It's a short, unhelpful answer.
No, I think very much agree with David that before the Lord, ask the Lord each scenario, because there may be a time when he says yes and there's a time he says no, and it could be the exact same festival. So really, I think just ask the Lord and follow his leading on that. Do I go? If I go, how do you want me to go? I think those are the kind of questions that we need to be asked. That's the sort of stuff that's what I encourage Japanese believers, same thing, because they've got situations such as funerals, which are very, very steeped in religion. And one of the traditions in that is they come up to the front and pray to the deceased person. Well, what do they do with that? And so it says, well, what does the scripture say? And what does the Lord want you to do in this? And some have chosen to stay in the back. They won't come to the front, but they at least come. Others don't go at all, but then they'll go to the grieving family week after week after week to minister and love them in a different way. Others will come to the front, but instead of bowing and praying to the deceased, they'll bow in respect to the grieving family. So there's listen to the Lord, ask and follow his leading on that. And I think location also makes a difference. Where is it located? Is it located in the shrine, at the shrine? Is it located just in the neighborhood? A lot of those are factors as well.
Okay.
Gotta get going.
Yeah.
That's all of the questions that are written down. So unless there's unless I missed something that someone posted and you want to verbalize it, now there's a few of us now too that if you want to just verbally ask a question, that's okay too.
Is there any Japanese person present among us that would like to correct us on anything? That's my question. I'd like to add wisdom, or I guess see a couple.
AKA Tex and Masi.
Yeah. Do you guys have any wisdom you'd like to share with us, or corrections you'd like to make
on any of the questions that have been asked?
No, I think everything that's said is it's good. It's good. Of course, everyone has its own conviction. Everyone has its own kind of way to follow Jesus. Yeah, but that's the main thing that we have to do is help people follow Jesus, and whatever Jesus tells them, well, we must lead them so that they can do and obey. And me too. The festivals, when you carry the mikoshi, that's the ark. Everybody carries the ark on their shoulders, yeah, I stopped doing that because I realized, okay, I'm carrying a foreign idol on my shoulder, right? So I realized, oh, this is wrong. So I was convicted not to do it. But of course, I realized that this is very important thing in the Japanese cultural context, to come together, the community as one, to do something together. So that Japanese people take this seriously, the importance of doing things, uh, collaborating. And so I asked myself, okay, so maybe I cannot carry the ark, their God's ark, but I can do something different to help participate in that community. I can pray for them. Yes, I can still share Jesus with them. So yeah, it's every opportunity to share, I'll take it. Every need that I see people have, I'll try to help. So yeah, so I guess that for me, that means to be the salt and light here in Japan. So yeah, just I guess do whatever the spirit leads you to do.
Actually, Deb Wood, could I ask you to close us in prayer?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Father, we just thank you for what we've heard this evening. We thank you for the work that you are doing in Japan. And we just pray and continue to beg you that that nation would hear the gospel and receive it, and many, many souls will come into your kingdom as a result of these faithful laborers and people who have been praying for many decades for the nation. And Father, we just thank you for the stories that we heard tonight, and we pray that you would continue to add more and more stories like this, and that these people would be fruitful in reaching their families and their friends and their neighbors with the gospel, and that you would just give them a supernatural desire to share with everyone,
Yeah.
not only the missionaries that are there, but also the people that are coming to Christ and the people that they are leading to Christ as well. And we do beg you for a movement of your gospel in Japan. And we pray this for your glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And thank you for hanging with us, everybody. I know it's kind of late for some of you.
Amen.